Turbo. Hey guys, my name is Chris, and today we'll be learning about sprites and animation. Adding sprites and animation to your game allows your concepts and ideas to come to life. Turbo makes this feature simple so you can continue making games fast. In order to follow along in this video, make sure you have Turbo installed on its latest release at the time of this video, that is 0.7.0. We have videos to help you out should you require it. Animation is huge in games, and some of the most interesting things about making games is the art and animation of a project. To start off, we're going to set up our document. Config doesn't exist anymore as it's built into Turbo.toml, so we'll just jump right into our init. We're going to start off by adding in a bool and give it the name of flipx, and we're going to initialize it to false. If you get lost during any of this, remember we'll recap to get more in depth on what is being done later in the video. Now, our second step is going to be setting up a sprites folder in our project. This is really simple. You want to navigate over to where your project exists. Mine exists over in Animate, because that's the name of it. And you're just going to name it Sprites. And I'm going to do this through VS Code. So I'm going to right-click Animate, click New Folder, and I'm going to name it Sprites. So now I have my sprites folder. I'm going to add in my sprites to that folder. So I'm going to drag and drop in my sprites right here. I just use one file for my sprites because I'm using a .ase file. It's time for step 3, which is to set up your animation key and assign it to a value. Here I take advantage of the tags, which I'll explain what those are in the recap. So this right here is my animation key. Once you have that in the folder, we're going to step right over into the final step, which is to bring our animation to life. I'm going to set some triggers in the form of button presses and tell it to change the animation when the button is pressed. Let's start off with flipping the X. A simple left and right gamepad press that sets the state.flip to true or false will make our animation face left or right. And I'm going to put it right here in between the sprite and the animation key assign. Drag him onto the screen, and there he is. This guy goes by the name of Shell. So if I click left, he'll face left, and if I click right, he'll face right. Let's add some more. If I click A, it'll play my attack animation, and if I click up, it'll play my upward attack animation. So let's add those in. I'll add that below the spray right here, and I'll save it. And now if I click up, does the upward attack, click A, he does the side attack, and he can do it both ways. So that's really cool. I'm going to go over this now, and we'll add a final feature after the recap is done. Step 1 is our init code. We add in one value, which is that flipx. And if you had a game where you needed to have like a flip Y, then that would be really simple. You just add in another value and name it flip Y, like if it's a top down or something like that. Step 2 is to set up our sprites folder, which allows for us to put sprites into our project. A sprites folder is created by just adding a folder into your project and naming it sprites with no capitals. The file types supported are .png, .gif, .webp, .ase, and .jpeg. For this tutorial, I'm using a .ase file, and I'm taking advantage of the tags in my file. Make sure to note the name of your file and its .ase. Make sure to know what the tags are. And step 3 was to add in our animation key and render the sprite in through the animation key. For this, I named my value Shell, and I used the same name for the animation key just to keep it simple. This first line accomplishes that, but the second line is actually rendering the sprite with the sprite command, which is this one right here. Through this command, I assign my animation key, what the sprite will default to, and lastly, I set the flipx field to the value we initialized in step 1. So animation key, default sprite, which is the run, so that's why you see him running, because I don't have an idle. And then the flipx is equal to state.flipx. If I needed to flip the Y, I could also set that here. If you are using tags in a .ase file, make sure to reference it correctly using the syntax name of file hashtag name of tag. So my .ase file is named shell attack, and then I do a hashtag run because the tag is named run. So name of file shell attack hashtag run. It's worth noting that if you misspell any of this, like if I did sprint right here, then my animation wouldn't appear at all. So it's important to get the names right. And then step 4 is the fun part. I'm now adding in triggers that will play specific sprites based on the gamepad inputs. I start off with the left and right inputs to flip the X. So right here, I'm flipping the X. Left equals true, right equals false. And then I add in logic to change the sprite based on the gamepad button that is pressed. I accomplish this by referencing my assigned value shell and using the command useSprite. So right here, the animation key that I've set up here, so let shell equal the animation. So I do shell.useSprite, and then I change the sprite right here, shell attacks, and then I do #/side, because that's the name of the tag. And for up, I do shell attacks #/up. And then I tell the animation to repeat once with the set repeat. So I'm using the .useSprite command and the .repeat command to flip it over to the animation for one iteration. And then since I've set the default sprite to run, it goes back to running. Now it'd probably make more sense in a game to set the default animation to idle, but I don't have that here, so I just have a run. Now we have a completed application of animation. But let's go further and try to trigger an animation based on another animation. On my .ase file, I have a pull-out gun animation, and then I have a gunfire animation. So let's add a button press to trigger the pull-out gun animation, and then we'll add a trigger in our loop to check for the gun is pulled out to let it finish that animation, and then change it to the gunfire animation. I'm gonna take my entire project and just copy and paste over it. And then I'm going to save this. And the logic I've added here is when I click B, it's now going to pull out the gun. Set fill forwards means I want the frame to end at the end of the animation and not go back to the first frame. If this is set to false, it'll go back to the first frame. And then up here I have a check where if the sprite name equals shell attack #pullout gun, and if it is done, I'm going to use the sprite gunfire. I'm going to increase the speed of the animation and set the repeat to 2. So this should ultimately come out to a double tap. And let's shoot the gun. See how he pulls out the gun and then he shoots it right there? And I can do it from both sides. Normally, I would show you an example of what I'm doing in my project at this point, but this whole tutorial was a bit of a showcase of a character I've thought up and animated. His name is Shell, and in the future, I have some plans for him. But for now, I want you guys to add animation to your project and show us what you can make in the Discord. That's what I have for you today, nerds. I hope this helped, and if it did, drop a like and join our Discord. Let me know in the comments how your projects are coming along, and let me know what videos you'd like to see in the future. Turbo!